Atlanta sprints, and Philadelphia's on the board first.
On the draw, this is Bryson Allen. And Allen weaving his way all the way down to the 22.
10-yard line, 5. Mayfield, Dancy, all around. Throwing as far as he can throw it. Jump ball coming. Crazy stuff. Not this time.
And you want to be a wide receiver. You're going to have to take a little bit of a hit like that as Brown got him in that shoulder, but watch. Those are teeth.
Do we have a dentist on staff here?
Another week and another episode. Time for another episode of Around the Indoor Football World. This week we'll be covering the NAL, AAL2, and IFL. And our first choice, your guest joining us today is from the NAL. We have running back, wide receiver, Kadarius Campbell from the Colorado Spartans. We also have Big Boy Sports joining us for the first time this season, but not the first time. It's been a little while. How are you guys doing this morning?
Doing good. Good after victory.
Definitely.
Feeling good.
Then we got my always trusty co-host here, Krish. How are you doing this morning, man?
I'm doing good. Doing good for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and start off with the NAL segment. Normally, it's the middle segment. We're waiting on a guest, so we figured we'd switch some things up for you guys. So if you're tuning in, hit that like button. Make sure you comment, subscribe, and continue to watch these episodes. We're growing every week with the audience, and we're hoping that we continue to grow it throughout the season. But we got a very interesting topics today because the Colorado Spartans, led by Kadarius Campbell and Jason Whitaker and a couple of very other key players, got their first regular season win in franchise history last night. So let's just go ahead and start right there. I mean, you guys were the first game this weekend. How do you feel after the win?
First, I want to give honor to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And how do I feel after the win? It feels great. It feels good. You'll take a win anytime. But just, being 0-3 starting off the year, to get this game, especially against Carolina, a top team in the NAL, it feels very good, so very satisfying feeling.
Big Boy, do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Not really. Not at this moment. I'm thinking one. Just give me a second.
You're good. Krish, do you have anything in mind?
Yeah, no, Kadarius, I wanted to ask you, you're a real big threat in the pass blocking game. I noticed you're like the extra lineman out there. Have you thought about transitioning more if you play outdoor football to the fullback instead of the running back?
That's a great question, Krish. My whole life, I've always been an interchangeable player, running back and fullback. So, have I thought about it? Not really, but, if opportunity comes and coach is like, hey, we need you to play fullback, this is your outdoor opportunity, I'm going to take that opportunity. First of all, I'm a team player. So, I'm going to do everything I can to help my team win. So if that opportunity came, yeah, you'll see me at fullback.
Interesting question, Krish. I did not see that coming. So obviously you've had some success this season. You guys have had 2 wins, as we talked about, they were against non-league opponents up there at the beginning of the season. And then you went on a 3-game road stretch. Can you talk a little bit about how difficult it was for you guys to go to back-to-back road games with, starting off with Omaha, the defending CIF champions, and then you go against Carolina, which was fresh off a championship, appearance themselves. And then there at the end, you have a scrappy Sioux City team as well.
The first 3 games were very challenging. Going to Omaha, they call it the slaughterhouse. That fan base, first of all, is one or the best in arena football. So it's very loud there. It was just a challenge. You're playing with guys that know how to win. So it's like, we played a tough game, but we didn't finish. So it's like, it was so tough because all three teams fought to the very end. So that was the biggest challenge, just, playing against guys that know how to win, know how to come back. So
That's definitely fair. So let's go ahead and get into this game last night a little bit. I mean, you guys got on the board quick. I believe Carolina scored first, if I'm not mistaken, but you guys answered back almost immediately. Your kicker turns around, gets the deuce. What was different about this game? I mean, it seemed like you guys got off to a hot start immediately and then just never let up.
the biggest difference was just the preparation this week in practice. When you come off a tough 3 games like that where you lose, you kind of just makes or break you. So this practice, we already know we're a talented group of guys. All of us know that any game or any play, all of us were capable of making a big play. So we worked really hard in practice, and then when we got that first touchdown, it felt like, hey, this is it, let's go. And then we saw the defense, do its thing. So we just had a inner swag coming into the game that, we got to win this. We can't lose. So,
Krish, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about, a player on your team, Mr. 305, Stephen Newbold, right? Like, we all know he's like an NFL caliber player, but what makes him special off the field?
what makes him special is he's a leader, very vocal. Guys from Miami, they're very vocal. But one thing about Steve, he practices what he preach. He works very hard, and he always tell him that he calls what he speaks his mind. So he's not afraid to say things, but he also is not afraid to take risks. And you see that in the game. Like, he's always making that play. He's always making that catch and getting a lot of yards after the catch. So he's a very special player. I agree. So he's a good guy.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is your rookie season?
Um, this would be I did a little stint in the IFL, but not enough to say that I played, a season. So I would say this is my official rookie arena season. Yes.
Who were you with in the IFL? I was not aware of that.
I did a training camp with Massachusetts Pirates.
Oh,
Last
okay.
night.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Krish, were you aware of that?
I was actually aware of that, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. I mean, Krish is he was an offensive intern, correct me if I'm wrong, last season with the Massachusetts Pirates. So we've got some, I guess you could say he's got some ties there. We don't. I don't. So let's go ahead and talk about the Idaho Omaha game. I know it's obviously very fresh. You haven't had a chance to watch it, I imagine.
No.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, it started off hot for Idaho. Idaho scored first. I believe they went up 7-0. And then Omaha answered back, and it turned into a blowout very quick. I think it was 70-14 by the end of the game. So Omaha continues to stay undefeated. I believe that's their 15th or 16th or 17th win in a row, dating back to last season. Just picking up right where they left off last year. Kadarius, you can kind of give us a little bit of an insight. What makes Omaha so good, and do you think there's a key to beating them?
What makes Omaha so good is what I mentioned earlier. I believe they haven't lost the game in almost 2 years or something. And I always compare teams like that to the New England Patriots when they had Brady. They just know how to win. And when you have that confidence as a team, you're going to just find a way to come back and just win the game. They have a great quarterback and a great running back duo. So I think the key to stopping them is to attack those two guys, get them off their game plan, the RPO game, and also play the game all the way to the end. Even if you're up 2-3 touchdowns with 7 minutes to go, make sure you secure the dub. and that's the only way you're going to beat a team like Omaha.
Definitely. That sounds like it might have been a comment based on last night a little bit. There at the end, obviously, you guys were up, I want to say 55-24.
Yeah.
And then it felt like the defense just let up just a bit. Allowed Carolina scored, 14 points there to end the game. But then again, you guys still won by 17 points. So at that point, the game was pretty out of hand. But it just kind of struck me that you said that because there was a little bit of that mentality there at the end. But let's go to Big Boy here. Big Boy, what do you think? What makes Omaha so good? And how do we go about dethroning them if anybody's going to?
Well, it's kind of like Kadarius said, you know what I'm saying? You got Tommy Armstrong, right? Absolute stud of a quarterback, just bombastic on the field. Contain him, that's it. That's a wrap, I think. But also, what plays into it is, the slaughterhouse itself, like that fan base. Again, cowbells. Very distracting for some opposing teams. Very, very distracting stuff. So that's also a thing that makes people intimidated, and that's definitely a part of the reason that they haven't been beaten in like 700 days. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's going to take something. It's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of things. I mean, what else can you really say about a team that hasn't lost in 700 days? So it's going to take moving heaven and earth to beat them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt. Krish, I know you've got strong opinions on this one, so I'm sure you've already devised a whole game plan on how you can defeat Omaha. So let's hear it, man.
No, I mean, is Omaha so good or is Idaho such a joke? We got to think about that too, right? I think Omaha's a great team, right? I mean, I think Tommy, like you all said, but their defense is what's really impressive to me, right? They have a rookie middle linebacker, Dylan Petaway. He leads the league in sacks. The other guy who they have is Cam Hunt. He's been on the team for like 3 years. So they have a lot of diversity on defense. And then on offense, obviously Tommy, Tavius Taylor, Jordan Barton, right? Like all these receivers that know Tommy. His receivers know Tommy better than Tommy knows Tommy, right? And so that's what makes him like gel. But I think there's a way to stop him for sure. I think you just need to keep Tommy in the pocket. And it's so like easier said than done because their offensive line is so dominant. Their offensive line they got in Omaha is an IFL offensive line, like or an AFL offensive line. Like it's such a good offensive line. So you gotta go out and invest in D linemen, right? And you can't be satisfied with the D linemen you have, and go out and get guys who can, elite pass rushers, which are hard to find. Don't get me wrong, but
Obviously, I'm very biased, but I feel like Colorado's got a few. That was put on display last night. Guy Myers was under duress all game long. I'm blanking the last names, but number 10, number 42. There's a couple different guys on that front line that deserve a lot of credit for that victory last night. Kadarius, I wanted to go to you next. Talk to me a little bit about your transition from the outdoor game to the indoor game and kind of the speed of the game.
It's a big difference from the outdoor. It was very challenging at first. The outdoor is just have a little bit more space, especially as a running back. You have the whole field. You get the ball in the middle of the field, and you're able to go left or right. In the indoor game, it is you're pretty much playing from one side to the wall, and the wall could be an extra defender. When you're playing the game, so it's a lot quicker as well. And just the motions, just understanding the game. So I think the biggest transition is just the speed. It's only 50 yards. So you don't have a lot of time to react, if I was going to say, 100 yards, you got guys moving around, floating around. But arena, it's like, you got good athletes too. You got a lot of good athletes on the field, and you have to react quick. So I think a lot of outdoor guys, they come to the indoor game, thinking they're going to come here and just, do this and that. But, a lot of these guys that play in this league, they've been playing for a few years, so they kind of know where to be, and you got a guy like me coming from outdoor. Sometimes you can be out of alignment and at the wrong place. So it was tough at first, but once you start to get the hang of it, it's a very fun game. It's a very fun game, but each game you get scratches from the floor, from the field. So that's another thing, you cover up a little bit more. But it's a definitely a challenge at first. So I advise a lot of guys to just get in the best shape you can, because you're doing a lot of high motion, and just study the game. Just don't come here with the mindset like, hey, oh, I'm gonna come here and just, do my thing. You really got to study this game. So
I would agree. Krish asked you about your blocking, probably on purpose to kind of highlight what you're good at. But I wanted to ask you about special teams play. What units have you played on, and what roles have you played on special teams?
Right now I'm on pretty much kickoff and kick return on special teams. And I'm pretty much just the kind of similar to my roles on offense. A lot, as Chris was saying, a lot of blocking, and a lot of just getting to the right spot. They definitely use me as a guy on the team to just bring a lot of force, and just to actually sometimes assist the other person. I may not be the guy that goes and make the tackle, but my job is to open up a lane for the other defender. So yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Krish, any last questions before we bid Mr. Campbell adieu?
Yeah, Kadarius, you're probably the best receiving back in the league, in my opinion. Where did you learn how to run routes like a receiver, and did you play receiver at all in high school?
You know, running routes. I didn't play receiver in high school, but as you guys know, when you watch outdoor football, as a running back, you have to be able to catch the ball. You have to be able to run a route. So, I would kind of say I kind of use my outdoor knowledge in the arena game, and in arena you throw the ball a lot. So as a running back, your carries are very limited. You guys know that. So it's like my mindset is like, hey, let me take care of my quarterback first. Let me protect him, and then I think like a running back. I get out and I play football. At the end of the day, this game, you have to all of us are trying to advance our careers. You have to be able to get it the way you can. You got to get it anyway. So I'm very alert when the pass game, because this is my ticket to show the team and the fans what I can do. So I think the biggest thing with me is being alert and aware of the game. So
that makes perfect sense. Kadarius, any final thoughts from this week, or this season so far, given your experience in the National Arena League, or anything you want to say to anybody at home?
I just want to, give a shout out to my mom and dad, my beautiful wife back home in Maryland, my children, just for supporting me through this journey. But just moving forward with the NAL, it's just, I think Colorado is going to be a team to watch. I think we are already on the radar as a very talented team, but I think after getting this win, I think we're going to be a problem this year. Hopefully we don't get any guys called to the next level, but just name the game. But if we can keep everybody on the team, and we stay healthy, I think we can make a run for it. Like you said, Coach Brooks said, I think we can make a run for it, and possibly go to the limit with it. So NAL is an exciting league, but I think the Spartans have really, after this win last night, I think we have gotten the attention of the league. So we're just going to keep working hard, and I just appreciate the love from you guys. in this platform. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And I didn't get a chance to thank you off camera, but thank you once again for signing my kid's shirt last time we were at the game. We really appreciate that. I think it really changed his outlook on football in general. He's not a huge fan like I am, so that was really cool of all you guys. I think he got literally every guy on the team. So, awesome part of indoor football, if you're watching and you have not been to a game, is that you do get that access to players after the game. They stick around, they sign autographs, take pictures with kids. I think there was about an hour and a half after the game where you guys were just, available to fans. So kind of a really cool aspect about the game. They'll high five guys while they're, coming off the field and stuff like that. And it's just a really good time if you haven't checked out the game yet. So make sure you come out to a Colorado Spartans game this season. They've got a couple more home games coming up. So I believe April 27th against the Denver Sharks, correct?
Correct.
And then the next one after that, May 18th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. So best of luck, Darius, and we would love to have you on for a full interview about your entire career at another time if you'd like to come back on.
I would love to, most definitely. Thank you, guys.
Have a great rest of your afternoon, and we can't wait till next week.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Have a good one. All right. Well, we were trying to wait out Coach Rez from the AAL2 Wheeling Miners, who has recently brought his team on a win streak. Timing was really good. We were hoping he would be joining us today, but so far I have not gotten word back from him. We're going to play a quick commercial, and then we'll get into our AAL2 coverage for today with our resident expert, Mr. Big Boy Sports down here. Speaking of which, if you have not subscribed to his channel, make sure you go check it out on YouTube right now. You can actually check this episode out on there right now too, so feel free to jump on his channel and join us from there, and then we will be right back.
Follow your passion first. First. It's the most fun thing in the world. You get up in the morning excited about what you're doing. And you got to be really honest with yourself about it. And you got to sit there and ask yourself, okay, what am I truly passionate about? What do I enjoy doing?
So unfortunately, I just got word that we also will not be able to be joined by Zach Brown this morning. He's having some technical difficulties that are not allowing him to join the link. So unfortunately, if you were tuning in for Zach Brown, I really appreciate you tuning in, but he will not be on this episode. But we will definitely get him back again. Zach is a friend of the channel, great guy, always watches the Cobra show with us. So just wanted to shout him out for being willing to come on this early. He did just message me, so he was very upfront and honest about what's going on. So just wanted to shout him out for that. But Big Boy, let's go ahead and get on to the AL2. I wanted to get your opinion on this game last night. It seemed like the Wheeling Miners are honestly a better team than I expected coming out of the box. What are your thoughts on how the league is shaped up so far and what they've been able to do in the past couple weeks?
First couple weeks has been something. It's been something. Just be upfront, be honest, be real. Wheeling is probably going to be the best team in the league. I mean, with Coach Rez and everything like that, they beat the brakes off of Steel City. They got into a really good game, best game last night by far with Jersey and Wheeling. I mean, that was a really good game. That was the game I was tuned in most last night. I was not really tuned into the NAL games or the lone IFL game, I think. I was definitely tuned into that more, as the night progressed. I was doing something before that, but we'll talk about that if you ask me. But, yeah, Wheeling has all the materials needed. They got top-notch production, top-notch players, a nice arena. Even though they have the Iowa Barnstormers field, it's still nice, even though it's, older turf and everything like that. They have all the tools needed. They got a nice offense, nice defense, everything. Definitely, I think, I don't know how the AL2 playoffs are going to work. But definitely, these are the two teams that I think will be going right back to the AL2 championship in June. So, yeah.
That's definitely fair. Obviously, they played the Jersey Bearcats, which are the defending champions of the AAL2. So, impressive win. And, and again, this is the second win 2 weeks in a row, if I'm not mistaken. It seems like the Wheeling Miners are rolling. Krish, do you have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, no, the Wheeling Miners should be in a higher level league, but I loved the game last night. I thought it was highly entertaining. I'm a Jersey Bearcat guy. I got my guy Stephen Cologne. I know like 5 guys on that team, so I was hoping they would pull out the win. But I thought Wheeling played great. I mean, they have so many skill position guys: Isaiah Robinson, their star receiver, Grant Russell. Like you can't beat that. And I think Wheeling is also the only paying team in the league. So they're the only team that pays their players, which, if you ask me, it's interesting dynamic for sure. But I think they're in this league for 1 year, and then they're going to move I think he wants to move to the IFL, to be honest. The IFL or maybe the AFL, but I think more IFL is fit for them for sure.
I mean, it'll be really interesting to see where they go from there. I mean, to me, it looks like a very well-run organization. And one of the things that I wanted to point out, and it was something that I didn't even say, it was just something that somebody else pointed out, and honestly, I think it's very true. The Wheeling Miners have had some really impressive-looking streams. And I know that for indoor football fans is something that's always a point of frustration with most of these leagues, because you're constantly dealing with audio issues or video issues, or it's buffering every 10 seconds because bad internet in smaller markets or whatever it may be. But some of these teams have done a really good job of making sure their production value goes to the next level, and that's important from a fan's perspective. If you can't bear to sit through a full game because it's simply the audio is so bad, or there's no audio, or it's making you change the channel to anything, even if it's another IFL game, that's ultimately a problem for any league. And it's not just the IFL. It was the CIF, it's been the AAL2, it's been the AIF. Man, don't even get me started on the AIF streams this season. But honestly, it's been every league. So for Wheeling to come out as a kind of a newer team and have this ability to show up and do it in the right way, I think is great for them. Big Boy, any thoughts on the production values from Wheeling?
Well, I mean, it was their first game, their first home game anyway. So that was their first stream. So definitely very impressive. I can't really say anything more. I mean, scoreboard looked good. The stream looked good. The announcers were great. Everything was top notch.
Definitely agree. And here's Justin Aaron, shouting out the Wheeling Miners for winning the game. Any notes on the game? Anything you thought stood out, Big Boy? I mean, you're more of an AAL2 expert than I am. I kind of follow the Dallas Falcons a little bit because our show that we do with them, and our we will have an episode coming out very soon, actually. But I mean, you also are very involved in the media side of covering the AAL2. You just recently had an interview with, who was it again?
Joshua Franklin. So he owns the Texas Hot Shots. So
there you go. Who just played the Dallas Falcons last week?
Yeah, they just played last week. I don't really have any thought because again, I talk about every single league, so all of them. So I was kind of flipping on and off between the Wheeling Jersey game. I was doing the interview, then I got into the Wheeling Jersey game. I'm kind of on and off with it, so I can't really say too many thoughts because and I was kind of on and off. So 42-32, very good win for Wheeling. That's really all I can say.
Definitely. Zach Beaudoin says, I was definitely impressed by that Wheeling Jersey game last night. First real AAL2 game I've watched, and they both were much more impressive than the non-league games they played so far. I would echo that too. Krish, go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah, so we spoke about production value, and I can't emphasize how important that is. Unfortunately, right? We'll probably talk about it on another show here soon, but there's another league starting next week, right? And they're going to be on national TV, right? And so think about it though. If you look at it like from a fan's perspective, if I'm going to look for a game, right? I'm going to the league that's on TV first, right? Then I'm gonna go on YouTube, maybe, right? So that or IFL, NAL, right? But if I can't find an AIF game, I'm not gonna sit there and sift through my YouTube feed to watch an AIF team beat up on a preseason opponent. I'd rather watch a Willie Miners game because that was a fun game. Like, I really enjoyed watching it, and I'm gonna watch every Wheeling game because it's easy to watch. It doesn't mess up my TV. It's not freezing every 2 seconds. Like Colorado, their broadcast was amazing. So I think there's a lot of teams that have their broadcast down, and those are the teams that are ultimately gonna succeed long term.
I would agree. I mean, it makes it very difficult for a fan to follow when you again have, audio issues or whatever it may be. And somebody shouting on my jersey. If that's Steve Foster, once again, thank you for this, sir. I appreciate it. I wear it as much as I possibly can without taking it outside and damaging it, or anything crazy like that. So shout out to Steve Foster, who actually got this for me and sent it to me. So I really appreciate that. It's cool to have friends in high places, I guess you could say. So Steve is joining us. Thanks for tuning in, man. We really appreciate it. Although we don't talk AFL on this show, we really do appreciate you tuning in. So let's go ahead and talk about the other AAL2 games this past weekend. I believe, like I said, the Dallas Falcons played the Texas Hotshots. Does anybody recall that score?
66-44 Dallas.
Thank you. It's been a long week since that game, so I definitely did not remember the score, but it was a solid game. I was honestly impressed by Dallas. They've got some definite playmakers on their offense, and some of these guys on defense, some of these young kids. If you're a coach in the IFL, anything like that, make sure you are keeping an eye on the Dallas Falcons because they've got some real talent. And also shout out Wolf 10 Scouting because they've got many clients on that team and they are trying to get them to the next level. So definitely make sure you are paying attention to that. Any thoughts on that game, Big Boy?
No, not particularly. From what I understand is that the Hotshots, they played pretty well. They brought 16 guys with them, so that's one thing. And Dallas had about 30, so that was another thing. And the game itself, I mean, it was all right. I mean, the stream's still up. I mean, you can't say that for another game that I'm sure we're going to talk about, but yeah, I mean, it was all right. I mean, I don't really have any thoughts on that game too much because I mean it was 66-44. What else can you really say about that?
That's fair. It was definitely a lopsided game at best for sure. It definitely seemed like Dallas was, the better team on that day, and sometimes it happens. But it also helps, like you said, when you have twice as many players. You can definitely keep guys fresh. So I was not aware of that advantage, although it makes sense. Tyrone's done a pretty solid job of building a talented team there and a obviously very deep team. What are the roster restrictions in the AL2?
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you.
That is completely fair. It's as much as I hate to say it, some of these leagues are very hard to find information on. So that was one part where I have not looked into. Krish, are you aware?
Yeah, no. I mean, I'll kind of touch on the Falcons game. I watched the entire game. First off, I'm so proud of both my clients, my quarterback Jamal and the receiver Tyler. Both of them, they balled out. Tyler had 4 targets, 4 receptions, and 4 touchdowns. I can announce this. I got Tyler signed to Oklahoma Flying Aces, NAL. He just landed there yesterday. So proud of him. We talked on the phone last night. He made the 5-hour drive from Dallas, so he's going to do great things at the professional level. Right now, I'm still trying to get Jamal somewhere, so we're working through that. But, really, really proud. The game was really unprofessional, to be honest. I mean, I know it's not considered professional football, but when you have your referee wearing a do-rag and shorts, right, that's not, dabbing up players like they're the homeboys. I don't think that's a great look for a league. And if I'm a professional scout and coach, right, like, because I was scouting that field, right, because I was looking and trying to see, do I have any potential clients, right? Any guys I can contact and say, hey, like, I would like to work with you, and I couldn't watch it. I could not watch the game. It was unbearable to watch because of like little details. I watched it because I like the Falcons and I love Tyrone, but I think it's hard. You have to kind of clean up those little things and have a dress code for officials and like certain field markings and just certain things.
Standard of play is a big reason the IFL has developed the reputation it has. I mean, let's be completely honest. If you look at their stadiums, if you look at their fields, if you look at their, dasher boards, if you look at everything, their goalposts, everything is uniform. It may not be all perfect, but it is uniform. You look across the league and there's a couple different teams that might have a little oddities, but overall, they all look a certain way, they feel a certain way, and there's a reason for it. You can't, without that unity, you can't necessarily have the success that some of the leagues want to have. Thank you, Erica, for tuning in. Great win by the Spartans last night. Big boy, elaborate on your comment about the stream not being up any longer.
I was referring to the West Texas Waco stream.
Gotcha. Okay, and what happened with that? I'm not aware of this.
So somebody had asked me about it, and it was uploaded, but then it just disappeared. So I tried to look for it because again, it was played outdoors. So it was outdoors, but with arena, with indoor rules. So that game, and from what I've been told, West Texas is out of the AAL too. So they're out. They're done. So it's just the Texas division left now is just Waco, Dallas, and the Texas Hotshots, and they're all playing in Rockwall. So.
Wow. So, man, apparently this website for the AAL2 needs to be updated then. So you're telling me the Austin Wolverines are not in the league?
They were never going to play anyway. We all know this. They like look at the last couple of years, man. The last couple of years they've been trying to play.
That's fair.
Or they've said they've been going. They said they were going to play, and they never did.
Didn't the owner die?
He did. That was also one thing, but they never play. Like last year, the other TAL thing, the Arena League thing that they tried to do in Mesquite last year, that got axed so quickly.
I was gonna say, man, I didn't even hear about that. So, what about the West Texas Warriors? And I think that's it.
Yeah, they're done. They're gone apparently. So,
wow. Okay. All right.
But they got kicked out of the league. So, the owners came together, said they're out. That's what I was told anyway.
Interesting. I bet. I'm not even sure what to say about that. I mean, I know the game was outdoors and it was really odd that had happened, but the wall fell apart at one point in the game, so I guess I can kind of see it. Man, that's tough. I mean, so how many teams are left at this point?
I have I can't tell you because it's hard to keep track. I can't tell you because it's hard to keep track of who's left.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, to be completely honest, like I said, I follow the Falcons because we work with them. But at the same time, I don't honestly spend a whole lot of time following the AL2, and man, I was not aware of that coming up. So that's pretty crazy. But any other last thoughts on the AL2 before we move on to the IFL?
I mean, look, like I feel bad for some of the guys, right? I think the AL2 needs to sit down and really kind of identify what their purpose is, right? Because there's already enough semi-pro leagues out there, right? And I think the AL2 could be a good destination to develop college athletes. What I mean by that is if you have a guy who went to college for 2 years, dropped out, got in some trouble, right? That could be a place for them, right? To play, if you know what I'm saying, if they want to take that route. I think that's a good option. There's a lot of good options out there. I feel like it's hard. You know, there's so many leagues. It's so hard to keep track. And if you want your league to be successful long term, you have to look at other options. So
That makes sense. That makes sense for sure. On that note, I will say that the one intriguing thing that I do like about the AL2, and part of the reason why I've been following the Dallas Falcons as well, is they've had a really unique approach to bringing in talent. So, I've talked to several of the guys, and again, this episode will be coming out soon, 4 different interviews. But they've got some players that aren't coming from a football background. One of the guys they signed was former track star at his high school. He always kind of played football on his own, kind of pickup games, stuff like that. And, eventually he played with some guys that were in a league similar to the AL2, and he ended up trying out for the Dallas Falcons because he saw a tryout flyer, and there's another guy who played some adult flag football and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's interesting to see how they've gone about bringing guys into the league on a league-wide basis, and it is definitely an opportunity for some guys, and obviously sometimes that's what it takes. But there's definitely some standard of play issues in that league, as well as the AIF, which we've talked about at times. It's been incredibly difficult to find their streams and stuff like that. But moving on to the league that we all love to talk about, the IFL, which is obviously currently the premier league in indoor football. Lots to talk about after the past couple of days. They had games on Thursday and Friday, but to join us is Cody Bryant. Cody, how you doing this morning?
Doing all right. Just making sure everything's going good with the audio and video and all of that stuff. So
sounds great, sir. Thank you for joining us, and remind us of your channel name again.
Channel name is called In the Alley on YouTube. Post there whenever a game is, played. Excuse me, getting over some sort of sickness here, but it's really just recaps, previews. Every once in a while, I'll do like a standings update, things like that. But it's mainly just to preview the games, get people kind of pumped up, ready for them, recap them afterwards, betting segments, stuff along those lines.
Definitely. And if you haven't done so, make sure you also subscribe to in the Alley, Cody's YouTube channel he just mentioned. Great content on there. Big fan of his stuff. That's why he's here. So, Cody, let's go ahead and get into that Tucson game with San Antonio. San Antonio got their first IFL win. What are your thoughts on the San Antonio-Tucson game?
The main question you have to ask yourself is how hurt is Malik Mitchell? He obviously didn't start. Terrence Gibson was the starting quarterback. He's normally a wide receiver, but I cannot remember for the life of me if he was kind of a quarterback wide receiver at Ohio State. But he played all right given the circumstances. That's the main question you kind of have to take away from this. San Antonio was going to get wins eventually. Starting 0-3, but having a couple close losses there, especially the loss against San Diego. You just knew that they were due for a breakthrough. On the Tucson side, like I said, what could you do? They only completed 5 passes. It was mainly just Gibson running, Mike Jones running. Can you get into the end zone that way? No, it was only a matter of time before San Antonio just kind of shut you down a little bit. So
I would definitely agree. I'm not aware if Gibson played quarterback in college, but he definitely played a little bit of quarterback last season with the CIF. So he's got a little bit of that in his background. He's definitely a jack of all trades, you could say. Krish, what were your thoughts on the Tucson game, other than the fact that Malik Mitchell was not able to go?
Yeah, so Gibson played quarterback at Ohio State, and he played receiver when he transferred over to Maryland. So he had a little bit of both. So I would say overall, Tucson, they added a couple new receivers, Jermaine Neal, Jalen Marshall. I think Jalen Marshall had done a great job, emerging as that number 2 receiver for them. I think that if Malik played in this game, it's a totally different game in my opinion, honestly. I think it's a lot closer. I think Tucson might have came out with the win, to be honest. It would be really tight. It would be a one-score game. But on San Antonio's side, I mean, Casanova, right? Obviously, I say this every year. He deserves to be outdoors, right? He dominates arena football. He dominates indoor football. He's one of the very few quarterbacks I've seen who can go and play arena and be the best player, and go and play indoor and be the best player. So that's special talent. My guy DJ Myers, 75 yards, 2 tutties. DJ is second in the league in receptions and yards, but he's not even Casanova the number 1 target. So that's kind of crazy if you think about how Sam spreads out targets. Naquan, Austin Upshaw. I think he had 6, 7 receiving touchdowns as a running back, receiver hybrid. They got so many offensive weapons. Coach Fuller doing a great job with that offense. So I'm just excited to see, the team progress. I think the defense still has stuff to clean up, to be honest. I mean, I think when they face a real quarterback, they'll have some trouble. But, I think it's going to be interesting. They made a lot of personnel changes. Zach Brown was actually inactive this past game. So, yeah.
Well, Zach Brown, again, was going to be able to join us this morning, but he's having some technical difficulties, so he will not be on the episode with us. And, we were supposed to have Malik Mitchell, but he didn't respond this morning either. So having a little bit of guest difficulties due to the early start time, I'm sure. But let's go to Big Boy Sports next. Did you catch the Tucson game, sir?
For about a little bit, really good performance by San Antonio, though. I mean, not gonna lie to you. The first win, that's always good and everything like that. Only caught a little bit of it. Once it got out of hand, I was like, I'm gonna go to bed. So yeah, I'm kind of shocked at Tucson, really. Kind of on and off throughout the season so far, but there's still plenty of time to go. So definitely improvements need to be made. San Antonio really needed this win. They really needed this, absolutely, because, man, you want to talk about no momentum. They had no momentum the last couple of weeks, and Castronova finally getting hot. There was a big run he had, like about a 20-yard scamper that was just like, ooh, just beautiful stuff right there. Yeah, San Antonio up, Tucson down a little bit. That's all I got to say on that.
That's completely fair. And again, yeah, I think the outcome probably would have been drastically different if Malik Mitchell plays in this game. Ultimately, the score was 60-36. And Torrance Gibson, to his credit, had 17 carries, 80 yards, 3 touchdowns, 5 completions, 15 attempts, 104 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. So, again, Malik Mitchell has done a really good job of protecting the ball, hasn't been throwing a lot of interceptions, so that probably would have been the big difference in this game. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the Sioux Falls at Green Bay game. Green Bay is starting to catch a little bit of rhythm here. They're beginning to look like one of the better teams in the league. Coach Roberson, good for you. I honestly wasn't sure if he'd ever be able to kind of get that momentum going, but I think he's finally found a quarterback. So, Cody, I wanted to get your thoughts on Max Mailer's performance and what you see for the Green Bay Blizzard going forward.
Certainly. I just uploaded the recap to YouTube and stuff like that for Green Bay and Sioux Falls for last night's game. So, nice little plug there. Go check that out. But in that recap, it's pretty much giving the flowers to Green Bay. They look good this year. I'm not ready to say that they're championship caliber by any means, but 3-1, and you beat your rival who you've only beaten allegedly 2 times before. So Max Meyler's good. It was a little curious last season between him and Jerome Johnson, which Jerome Johnson is a whole nother thing with Vegas. But between him and Jerome Johnson last year, splitting the time in Green Bay, you didn't really know what you were getting. I mean, you did, but you didn't coming into this season. And Meyler's been a good surprise for that offense. The big question has been how good the wide receivers and the running backs have been. They only returned, 6 players from last season. And Patron has been a huge, huge get for Green Bay. Burgess and Cagle out of the backfield is just a nice little 1-2 punch. Cagle on his kick returns last night, that really set the tone for Green Bay. Sioux Falls they cannot get out of their way of penalties. The snap issues have come back. I mean, there were three snaps that the center just kind of racked himself, and Green Bay recovered 2 of them. So for Sioux Falls, the question you're asking yourself is, where do you go from here? If you look at the transactions page, Lorenzo Brown is allegedly back. But like I said in my recap, I don't think Hall is the issue for quarterback. I think the issue is those snap issues and the penalties and kind of just shooting yourselves in the foot. That's pretty much where I'm at between these 2 teams. But it was a good game. Green Bay just forced 4 turnovers, and that was pretty much the difference in the game there.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of compound on your point there about Billy Hall, last night he was 15 of 24, 159 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 11 carries, 79 yards, and a touchdown. If you look on the other side of the field, the winning team, technically, statistically, Max Mailer wasn't all that much better. 13 of 20, 150 yards, 3 touchdowns, 20 carries for 63 yards and 3 touchdowns. The big difference that I see here, obviously Mailer did not turn the ball over, but also he wasn't sacked. So that's huge. I mean, when you look at Sioux Falls, Hall's been under pressure quite a bit this season, so that's definitely something they need to fix and get corrected moving forward. But it's something where, ultimately it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing. If Brown is in fact back, and I have my questions about if that's actually true or if it's just a mistake on the website, things might change immediately. He was just with Arizona early in the season due to an injury, and so it'll be interesting to see. He had quote unquote retired after last season, so the fact that he's back in general, let alone with Sioux Falls, would be a storyline to follow going forward. Krish, any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Lorenzo Brown is back with Sioux Falls. He was on the sideline last night, and it was also mentioned in the broadcast that he's back. He's the backup quarterback. He's going to be more of a mentor to Billy Hall. That's why, Andre Fields said he brought him back, which makes sense. He lived in the Sioux Falls area too, so why not? But in terms of Billy Hall, I think Billy Hall is a solid quarterback. Like you've been saying. I mean, I watched Billy Hall in person. He makes all the throws. He navigates the pocket well. He's a good runner. I think Billy Hall's a solid quarterback. I think Billy Hall's future in this game, both outdoor and indoor, is really bright. Like if I'm him, I'm like, man, I got a long future in this. If he sticks to the plan, look at Jerome from year 1 to year 2, right? Billy Hall can take a similar leap, if not more of a sizable leap. Honestly, like if you compare Billy Hall year 1 to Jerome year 1. I think Billy Hall is better year 1, honestly. So, it's exciting to me. I can't wait to see what Billy Hall does in his future. But unfortunately, it's coming at an expense of the veteran receiving core they have, right? They got Carlos, they got Pentrez, Bell. Of course they're going to be mad, right? They're both 2 high caliber receivers on an 0-4 football team that's about to be 0-5 after next week. So, I think it's hard. It's hard for them, and I feel bad for Andre Fields because he's a great coach. But their center, number 78, needs to be playing for the Texas Hotshots. He's one of the worst football players I've ever seen in my entire life. And I don't go that length, but some of those snaps, 4 snaps I counted. How are you at a professional level? I know the IFL had the salary cap rule, but that's pretty bad for the commissioner's team to have that bad of a center, to be honest. So
Fair point. Fair point. Although that was a bit of a low blow to the Texas Hotshots. Big boy, what are your thoughts on this one?
This is another game I only caught bits and pieces of. So, Cody, I just subscribed to you, so I will definitely be watching the highlights, man. I will definitely be watching the highlights so I can get, get the condensed version. So
That's the goal. I mean, I try and keep my not to cut you off. I apologize, but
no, you're good, man. You're good.
It's the recaps and stuff. I try and keep 10 to 15 minutes, something as simple. Like, I don't post the highlights. I don't want to step on IFL's toes or anything. Like, that's their stuff to deal with. They have their own condensed games, which is fine. I just excuse me. I just narrate the games, tell you what I think, kind of some personal opinions. Did we win the best bet of the day? Then we just get on out of here. So that's pretty much what I do. But that's it. I mean, I tell you the stats, kind of go through some stuff and how the teams go. But yeah, I'll throw it back over to you there. I'll say my piece.
Yeah. Honestly, great win for Green Bay. Like I'm very shocked at this turnaround, to be completely honest with you. 3-1, beat Sioux Falls. They beat Iowa too, right? I forget. So far, big turnaround. Definitely could be contended for a playoff spot in the near future. We still got a long season to go. Sioux Falls, honestly, I don't even know right now. Like it's kind of like San Antonio for the first 3 weeks, and Jacksonville, and maybe Arizona too, where it's just like, oh, y'all are not that team no more. Y'all are not that team no more. So. Yeah, Sioux Falls has a lot of the snap issues. Definitely something that needs to be improved on. Penalties, defense. When it comes down to it, the defense definitely too needs some improvements. Because it's a weird time. It's 2024, and Sioux Falls is not at the top of the mountain.
That's completely fair. Speaking of weird times, I wanted to bring this up. This is interesting to look at because it seems like there's a lot less parity this season than there was last season in terms of the two divisions. There's a lot more parity. I apologize. Massachusetts, Frisco, Green Bay, Tulsa, all 2-1 or better in the East. And then in the West Division, you've got Bay Area, San Diego, Vegas, Northern Arizona all setting themselves apart already. I think this is interesting to kind of follow because the West Division the past couple seasons has been extremely tough to come out of with any sort of consistency. The Bay Area has been at the top of the division. Vegas is kind of a bit of a surprise this season, but not one that comes as too much of a surprise if you've been paying attention. Jerome Johnson, great quarterback. I'm a huge believer in him. I honestly think he'd be in the CFL if it weren't for the fact that he's a little small. But it's just kind of interesting to follow the East because the East has kind of had some teams separate themselves this season so far. Massachusetts has looked just deadly so far. Frisco has been winning games. They haven't really had much of a passing attack so far. So there's still some room for improvement there. They've been, nearly unstoppable the last couple seasons in the regular season. Haven't done much in the playoffs yet. Green Bay, again, 3-1. They're looking really good. Honestly, could have been 4-1 or 4-0 if it weren't for, slip up in one of the games. And then Tulsa as well has been looking fairly good, and shout out to Krish once again. He called it from the very beginning. He's a huge fan of Daniel Smith. Daniel Smith has looked great. He's led that team to a 2-1 record so far. But we're going to go ahead and look at the games coming up for the rest of the weekend, which is, of course, headlined by Jerome Johnson going into Jacksonville to face, which sounds like it could be a new quarterback for the Sharks. I'm sorry, the Sharks. So with that in mind, let's go to Coach Trey, who has not joined us quite yet. Coach, what are your thoughts on the Jacksonville and Vegas game tonight? Oh, you're muted. There we go.
I expect Jacksonville to still be where Jacksonville is right now. Vegas has got way more momentum. Jacksonville kind of going through the growing pains of transitioning to arena football. We got a few teams that came over from the NAL. Well, most of the teams that came over from the NAL to the IFL kind of struggling with that transition. Most in part because they have the traditional arena football rosters that they kind of carried over from the NAL issue. So the IFL a little bit more athletic. You got the two motions. That's another factor. So we having to make a whole bunch of adjustments, being the Sharks, playing against teams that's already in rhythm with the flow of how the game go in the indoor football league.
That's a great point. Cody, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, when you kind of see the different roster moves and everything that Jacksonville's put together, whether it's been N'Kosi Perry, Fred Payton Jr., they've kind of cleaned house in a regard, but they still have Connor Blunt there. The question is he going to start? I know he was kind of injured, so that is going to be, in my opinion, obviously the biggest factor. Vegas, on the other hand, they're just firing on all cylinders. Like the play that is just engraved in my mind, which I believe ruined one of my bets, which sucks, but it was with like a minute left or something like that last week against San Antonio. All they had to do was run the ball, and I believe Caleb Hawley was just right in the end zone, wide open, no one around him. Vegas looks good. Vegas is, dare I say, a borderline championship caliber team right now. The defense is scary. Mikel Calhoun on that linebacker position is very, very good. The defensive line, really getting after it. Jacksonville, like Coach said, is just kind of a team in flux right now. What are we going to get from them? The defenses looked all right, but again, I just think Jacksonville is on a roll right now. I expect Vegas to just come out and kind of blow the doors off them.
That's completely fair. They are literally coming off a game where Jerome Johnson threw two incompletions all game long, 11 of 13. 160 yards, 4 touchdowns, ran for 3 more, had 57 yards on 8 attempts. I mean, the man is probably, if not the best quarterback in the IFL, he is top 3 by far. I'm a huge fan of him, like I said. And again, if he was a little bit bigger, maybe 6'3", 200, 210, he'd be outdoors. I have no doubt in my mind. He's a little bit smaller. I want to say he's like 6 foot and 180 or something like that. Big boys, did you catch, or do you have any thoughts on this game? You're muted, buddy.
There we go. Took me forever to get my mouse.
That's
but,
all good.
No. I don't really have any too much thoughts on this game that hasn't already been said. So we got a lot of games tonight. So I'm going to be flipping back and forth all night. So
definitely. Krish, why don't you go ahead and give us your thoughts on this one, and then go ahead and kick off with your thoughts on Mass versus the Quad City Steamwheelers.
Yeah, so, Jacksonville, they made some changes at running back, too. They added Stanley Boone Williams from Kentucky. He played with Frisco and Nash. They also added Tyler Knight, a running back from Marshall. So those two guys have a lot of speed. I think Tyler's a 4 or 5 guy, if I read that correctly. So, speed is important in the indoor game. Quarterbacks, I think they roll out with N'Kosi Perry to start. But Fred Payton was signed. I'll tell you guys this from what I understand. Fred Payton was signed a week and a half ago. They just announced it yesterday, right? So he's been there for a little longer. And I think Fred is from the Florida. Fred is from the Georgia area, but he's like, where he's from in Georgia is like 3-hour drive from Jacksonville. So he's probably already been down there, honestly. Fred is a very capable quarterback. I mean, that's like Fred can make all the throws. I went back, I watched the whole entire Oklahoma game, I watched it live. Fred was fitting balls in tight windows. He was throwing balls over the defender's head. He can win. Fred can make that one-on-one throw easy in the bag. Now that Fred has better receivers with Cam, Demoyan, Rice, number 3, like he could do some damage. Nicoisi, on the other hand, he's a better runner. That's it. Like the only reason why Nicoisi will start over Fred is because Nicoisi can run the ball. That's it. As far as with Mass and us and what we're trying to build up here, right? We're 4-0 right now. We're trying to go 5-0. I believe we're gonna go 5-0 tonight. I believe Quad City doesn't stand a chance against us. The only player I'm concerned about is Gerard Harrington, number 16. That's it. I mean, they don't have a quarterback. They're starting Mike Irwin this week. I'm telling you, they're starting him. But he's a rookie, right? He's still trying to learn the game, and against our defense, we added 2 new D linemen, Sam Montgomery and Ty Russell from Auburn. So 2 new D linemen. We traded our D lineman, Devontae Brooks. We traded him to Tucson. But of course, like we're making moves. We're always looking to get better, right? We could be 4-0. We could be sitting here and be like, oh, we're fine. But we're always looking to get better, always looking to improve, and that's what makes us stand out from other teams in the league, right? So I'm really hopeful that we're gonna go 5-0. I'm interested to see who starts at running back. I have not heard that yet, but I think we're addressing both Jimmy and Tavion, so that's gonna be interesting.
Hey, well, This Week in Arena Ball tuning in says, just checking in at the Firebird scrimmage. Everything looks good over here. Hope things go well, even if I am 2 hours late. Alrighty. Well, let's go to Coach Trey next. Coach, what are your thoughts on the Massachusetts game coming up tonight against Quad City at Quad City?
With EJ gone, it's a little different. I think Mass traditionally is better than Quad City the last 3 years. I think they're better than Quad City now. I'm also not gonna bet against my guy Bones Bagante. Me and Coach Mann had Bones down in Cedar Rapids in 2020, so I know the drive that Bones has and what Bones want to prove. So I think that Mass will come out and get Quad City. Quad City is not quite where they need to be, but they have the same roster. Most in part that they had since the COVID shutdown, but it's not resulting in what it needs to result in. I'm also not a big fan of how they defense play, the schemage of the defense under Coach Hendricks. So they got a couple of things to get together to be able to overcome a team like Mass. Mass still one of those top contenders, and I think that they'll get it done tonight.
I definitely agree. Cody, any thoughts on Mass game before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, it's excuse me, it's pretty much pick your poison for Massachusetts. If you think you can shut down Zico and Thomas Owens or Dallas Daniels or whatever, they're going to run the ball. I mean, the name of the game is Tavion Thomas and Jimmy Robinson. And just when you think that you've got them shut down, Alejandro Benefield still has legs. I mean, he can still run the ball as well, too. It's just when you think you've got the running game shut down, they're going to throw it. This offense is lethal. Defensively, too. I mean, that secondary, the stats might not show it, but Eugene Ford, Matt Elam, and the rest of that secondary looks good. Calvin Bundage is a man on a mission. I don't have the stats in front of me right now. I think he's got 19 total tackles right now. He has a lot of stats, and I know that doesn't tell the whole game. He is getting after it at that linebacker position. It's nice to see because I know last year he bounced between Massachusetts and Green Bay, but it's nice to see him starting in that role. Quad City, I don't know. I think Krish touched on it. Who's the quarterback? If it's Irwin, Hell, even if it's Erickson, I don't know who's the better option. The wide receivers for Quad City are all right. They don't have a running game, and that's killing them. On one of the comments on my YouTube video, I remember someone saying that EJ Hilliard played hero ball. He always had to put the ball in his hands and always do this. That still won him some games. There's no hero ball going on here for Quad City. They need it. They need a running game. They need a quarterback to completely take over. I don't know what they do. Defensively, like Coach touched on, it's just not good. Their linebacker, Conigan, I don't believe is on the team anymore. I don't know who they have starting at linebacker right now. It might be slotting DJ Morgan in there. I'm not sure. I know DJ Morgan was like a linebacker, defensive back for San Diego last year. I don't know. I root for Quad City, which sucks. It's not fun to watch your team lose like this, and just to be able to know that your your game's already a loss before it even kicks off right now, because that's how good Massachusetts is. Maybe they surprise me. I've got Massachusetts winning big here.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. As much as I hate to say that, got a lot of friends out there in Quad City. Basically connected with more often or more of the team than not. Let's put it that way. So, hoping them nothing but success. But I think this is ultimately going to be a loss. Massachusetts looks like a championship team in the making. Honestly, I think we're watching them in the process of making a run to another championship right now. But we'll see by the end of the year. Let's move on to the Arizona Rattlers at the Iowa Barnstormers. Let's go to Big Boy first on this one.
All right, so Iowa, Arizona. Oh my goodness, I don't even know how this game is going to go. To be completely honest with you, so I was not very good. We all could probably agree on that. I was not that team. And now Arizona, I don't even know what the QB situation's like now in Arizona. So, I still think Arizona's going to win this game, but it's like, it's probably going to be like, I don't know, maybe Arizona. It's either going to be Arizona blows out Iowa or somehow this game will be close. That's what I'm thinking tonight.
Definitely fair. It looks like the betting odds have this as Arizona as 7-point favorites.
Go ahead and take the under. Go ahead and take the under on all of these games. Take the unders, man. On if you're betting, take the unders. For most of the season, the under has been hitting like man. The under has been hitting. So,
I mean, that under with Tucson and San Antonio didn't quite work out for everybody.
No, it did not. But
or last night.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
But I don't know that I would bet every under, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, not every under. But what I'm saying is that for the most part, the under has been. Whew.
That's true. Krish, you're an avid bettor, my friend. Have you been making any money off the IFL this season so far?
No, not at all. No, because I can't. Like, they make that very clear to you. Like, if you want to have any involvement with the team, you can't, like, bet. I mean, I would make loads of money off this, but, the thing is with Iowa and Arizona, one thing I kind of want to touch on with that is, I saw my boys from Iowa last week, Anson and Trey. It was great seeing them. It was great beating them. It was awesome. But their quarterback situation, they're going to start Kyle King this week, from all what I understand. Kyle King was a stud at Mary Hardin and Baylor. I think he threw 82 touchdowns and 11 interceptions over 4 years. So, like, he's a stud, and he can make all the throws. I mean, he's a little bigger. I'm interested to see how he does. Arizona is going to start Dalton Sneed this week. That was confirmed yesterday in a Twitter posting. So Dalton Sneed is back, so that makes a huge difference. I don't see one DB on Iowa that can stop Glenn Gibbons. I don't. I like, show me one DB. Their defensive back core is so weak. They got a new linebacker in there. I just think Arizona wins this game. I think it's going to be a 10-point game. I say, I'm going to give Arizona 50, Iowa 40, let's say.
All right, that's fair enough. And if that's the case, you'd hit the over. So for whatever that's worth. Let's go to Coach Trey next. Coach Trey, what do you feel about the Arizona-Iowa game?
Well, this will be a week that Arizona bounced back. Iowa is horrible. They still going. Ever since Iowa let Dixie Wooten go, it's been pretty much downhill, and they pretty much been in the spot they in. They got to get it together on the hires. Who they bringing in as head coach? They haven't hit yet. They miss every time up to this point. So I'm gonna take Arizona. Like I say, Arizona is in a rebuilding phase, but this is a week where the traditional thing will happen. Arizona will probably dominate Iowa, and it might be a good confidence builder moving forward for the Rattlers in the IFL season.
I think so too. I think honestly we're going to see Arizona go on a streak from here forward. I'm a huge Dalton Snead fan. I think he's the best quarterback in the league in terms of an overall perspective. He's got that mobility to do everything you need from an IFL quarterback, but he's also a very good passer, super accurate, makes great decisions, never throws interceptions. And that's a big reason why he was the top quarterback on my rankings this season. I thought Garrett Kettle would do a better job of being the starter, but ultimately Lorenzo Brown came in there and cleaned up those issues for a little bit. It's shocking to see them 1-2 right now, but like I said, I think they're about to go on a run. 1-3. Sorry about that. Cody, what are your thoughts on this one?
What everyone else has said. Iowa, not that good. Arizona, not good, but better. Glenn Gibbons, if you're looking for a non-quarterback MVP candidate right now, he is the guy. Iowa has not scored more than 30 points except once this season. Arizona scored at least 40 points in every game that they've played, and they have 3 losses. Their total losses combined are 18 points. They're getting their quarterback back. We don't know who's starting for Iowa. If it truly is Kyle King, I think he might be the better option at this point. But the thing you have to think about with Arizona is they've given up a lot of yards rushing. They have let the quarterbacks that they have battled rush all over them. This could be the time where Darius James-Peterson could be actually used very well. And if they go with Kyle King, I'm not saying it's bad, but that could go to the strengths of Iowa. And they're just gonna maybe make a mistake. And I'm not saying Kyle King can't run, but that's Darius James-Peterson's bread and butter, it seems. It's just he's always scrambling. Now, could be the offensive line issues and stuff like that, but I just expect Arizona, Dalton Snead coming back. I know that Isaiah Houston is hurt. They had to have Garrett Kettle play wide receiver a little bit in their last game against San Diego. Doesn't bother me. I've got Arizona -7 if you're betting. I think they win by 14, maybe even 20. It's just going to be a blowout.
That's fair. I mean, honestly, this is going to be a great game for Arizona Rattler fans, which obviously they need a little bit of positivity after, 1-3 start to the season, which again is surprising to see because honestly they've had fairly decent quarterback play. Both players over 60% completion rate. I think they've combined for 11 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. So I mean they've played well, 14 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. So fairly solid play overall. It's just, some things don't fall your way, and that's one of those situations we've seen Arizona in recently. Let me get back to the schedule. But the other games at hand this upcoming week are also going to be very entertaining. This one in particular, Frisco at Tulsa. These are pitting 2 of the better teams in the East right now against each other. Frisco is 3-0, Tulsa is 2-1. So let's go to Cody first on this one, and then we'll hit Krish next.
Yeah. So how much of these two teams changed since week 2? Um, I think Tulsa's gotten better. Frisco is clearly still undefeated. So have they gotten better? Have they stayed stagnant? I think for Frisco to win this game, they need to open up their passing game a little bit more. They did it in their last game. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think TJ Edwards threw for like 125 yards, which doubled his season total. Daniel Smith has developed really well. I was genuinely curious to see if Jawan Pass would be the starter for Tulsa. They've gone with Smith. I know there's issues with that. I'm not going to get into it, but Smith has developed pretty nicely. The wide receiving core is coming to their own. I'm a little hesitant when teams bring back practically their entire roster, which is kind of what Tulsa did. But that continuity has proven itself in droves here. Tulsa looks good. That defense is scary. Ramon Morris on the secondary, Taylor Hawkins, Galden, and everyone else on that secondary. Jordan Jones is in on his. He's just picking up where he was with first team All Indoor Football League. It should be a very close game. It should be a very close game. I think the X factor here for me is if Frisco's able to throw the ball to offset their running game, it could eke out a win. But I'll tell you right now, Tulsa with the upset.
I was wondering which way direction you were going to go on that one. Krish, what are your thoughts on this one? I know you've got a rooting interest.
What game are we talking about again?
Tulsa and Frisco.
Tulsa, okay. Yeah, so Tulsa, their receiving core, right? Alex Rosario, my boy Josh Crockett, Dubose, right? Like Cody said, they brought a lot of players back, but Josh Crockett is a perfect example of how an indoor team can find local talent in their area, right? And Marvin Jones went out and found Josh Crockett. Josh lives 5 minutes away from where they practice at, where they play their games at, right? The BOK Center. So that's someone who can recruit and find talent, right? So that says a lot to me. He's one of the best receivers in the league. His stats might not reflect that, but 6'4", like he's a great route runner. He has size. He's the perfect indoor receiver. But I mean, Daniel Smith, I think Daniel Smith is a good quarterback. I think he can run an offense really well. I think he can, I think there's certain things he could improve on, but I think overall, I think he's a good quarterback. I think he can lead the team to victory, and that's what they need. Tulsa's on a 3-year plan, in my opinion. Right? Last year they started off with year 1 or whatever. Year 2 is to make the playoffs, and year 3 to compete for a championship. They're on a 3-year model, in my opinion. But I believe they added another receiver. No, yeah, last week they added Gerard Ware at running back. That's a huge addition for them. He's been really, really great. He's a speedy running back. It's going to be a tight game. I think this is Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones has a lot to prove. When I look at this, Marvin Jones, he hasn't been able to win big games. I've been kind of critical of him. I think he's 5-27 as an NFL head coach now. So this is his opportunity to really break through and get that 6th win, and also prove that he can compete with the upper echelon team in the league. So that's my opinion on it for sure.
A good opinion. It is. Frisco is 7-point favorites, despite the fact that they're playing in Tulsa. I want to point that out because Tulsa Oilers fans are among the most dedicated in the league. They've had impressive numbers at most of their games compared to most of these other teams. So, that home field advantage for Tulsa is very real. So looking forward to seeing how the fans come out. But we'll ultimately move on to the next game, and I will get the opinion of Coach Trey on San Diego Strike Force at Bay Area. This game kicks off at 8:05 Central Time if you want to watch. Again, all these games are free to watch on YouTube. And definitely I recommend if you got a team in your area to go check out the games. Go ahead, Coach.
Well, I said last week I don't bet against Nate, but if it's been confirmed or if it's true that he got the broken ribs, I gotta go with the Bay Area Panthers, which I probably would have gave them. I probably would have been a little more not able to pick if Nate was playing. home, but it's at the Bay Area, and San Diego is in that situation where they got to find a answer with if Nate is down for the season or down for a couple of weeks with those broken ribs. So I'm gonna go with Bay Area Panthers. They the more complete team. They are more the team with a complete supporting cast, and they are the team with the best coaching staff between these two teams. So I'm gonna go with the Bay Area Panthers.
You know what's crazy to me about Nate is Nate continues to get injured, and like last year with the knee, the year before with the shoulder, now with the ribs. Apparently, right? Like, I mean, it comes a point in time, man, where you have to really like. He's a stud. He's balling. I mean, he didn't do what Nate does, but do you want to keep getting hurt, right? Like, I don't know if it's worth it for long term effects on the body if you're just getting beat up like that. The quarterback that they have replacing him is Rudy Johnson, which is a interesting choice for sure.
I think Rudy Johnson doesn't get enough credit for what he's been able to do in place of Nate at times. So I thought he did very admirable last season when he was given the start in multiple games. This game is, ultimately kind of lopsided. I do think Bay Area is going to get the win, especially with Nate out. I do expect Rudy to have a good game. He's an efficient player. He does typically play defense, though. He's a quarterback / defensive back. So that's a big reason why I think San Diego will have a roster spot for Nate as long as he wants to play. They've got a solid backup who's kind of a local guy, a guy who can play other positions. So it's not really hurting their roster the way they assemble it. So I honestly think that's a situation where Nate's going to have a home in San Diego for as long as he possibly wants it because they want him there and they have the right situation. Michael Washington tuning in. He says, don't sleep on that San Diego wide receiver group. Definitely would agree. It's better than advertised before the season. And honestly, they've done a great job of dominating some teams so far. So it's been interesting to watch. Big Boy, do you have any thoughts on the San Diego versus Bay Area game? Kind of a cross-state rivalry.
Well, now with the Nate Davis injury, I forget. This might be. This is still going to be interesting, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure, to be completely honest with you now. Now that I know that injury's a thing, so.
Well, Rob Keefe is also Rob Keefe is, in my opinion, the best coach in indoor football. Honestly, indoor arena. So, Rob Keefe definitely has Rudy.
Yeah, I still think this will be a close game, though. I still think this might be one of the best games of the weekend, but it's
I definitely think Nate being out changes a lot. I'm not going to lie to you guys, but I definitely don't think this is a game that's going to end up a blowout. I could be completely wrong, but we'll see. Cody, do you have any thoughts on this game before we move on to the last game of the weekend?
I kind of agree with Big Boy a little bit. It should be a close game. At least that's how I'm kind of predicting it. Rudy Johnson is more dual threat than Nate Davis. I mean, let's just kind of call a spade a spade. Nate Davis, in my opinion, is just kind of like that statue. I mean, he's like the last of the dying breed of like the Joe Flacco, stand in the pocket. We're not going to necessarily run. He can run, not nearly as accurate as he can pass, though. I think Rudy Johnson gives you kind of a new aspect on that to open up the passing game. Arthur Jackson has just been a nice breakout star for San Diego. When you look at the Bay Area side, however, I believe as Krish said, Rob Keefe is just leaps and bounds coaching-wise. Just an amazing coach. He always finds a way to get it done. Defending champions for a reason. I think for Bay Area to really pull out this win in a deciding factor, Pierre Williams really has to go off. He didn't necessarily go off last week. Didn't really need to, but I really think Bay Area can get this game going their direction if Pierre Williams, Jazarick Peterson, and that passing game goes. Question you have to ask here too, it's just kind of been how quarterbacks are. Felix Harper was in there for the second half of the game. Does he continue to play? Was it just a knock for DeQuan Neal? Is he going to be starting? kind of looking for that. If it's Neal, I expect more of the same. And honestly, actually, I'll take that back. If it's either of those quarterbacks, I expect more of the same. Felix Harper did well last year in the backup role to Dalton Snead. I guess I don't see too much of a drop off if he starts, but I think Bay Area wins by more if Taquan Neal was in there.
I would agree. I think Bay Area is, again, one of the deepest quarterback rooms in the league. Felix Harper could be a starter for probably 4 to 6 teams in this league right now, and honestly would make them better. So definitely wanted to shout him out. So yeah, definitely going to be an interesting game. Again, cross-state rivalry, so they are always interesting. You want to see how the fans show up, if there is truly a home field advantage. If not, how that affects the game. And ultimately how Rudy Johnson's presence at quarterback affects their scheme and how they ultimately game plan against Bay Area. It is at Bay Area though, so that is one factor that makes me lean a little bit more toward the Panthers. But the final game of the weekend is Duke City at Northern Arizona Wranglers, and I'm going to take this opportunity once again to shout out Arsiah McCorker. That guy is a complete baller. I really think at some point he's going to end up outdoors, hopefully right after this season. He's insane. 3 games, I think he's got like 7 or 8 touchdowns now. He's done it on the ground, through the air, in kick returns. Just amazing, and then a rookie season. He jumped right into indoor football. He didn't take that year off that a lot of guys do. He took the opportunity that was at hand and he's running with it. So I hope he gets that opportunity to make the leap to the next level. Krish, any thoughts between Duke City and Naz?
So I'll start off by saying this. I have a ton of respect for Miss Tina and everything she does in Duke City. I think she's a great owner, right? She's been there for many years. She understands how it's run. I do think there's an inherent culture issue in Duke City right now in terms of team culture. Your best receiver, Tyrone Laughinghouse, got on a plane and left. The quarterback situation with Javen Kilgo. I like Javen as a person. I think he's great dude, but you got to start looking. You got to start looking, man. Like, it gets to a point where, you can only rock. You can't keep throwing darts at the wall if they won't stick. Like it. I think Javen, he's thrown so many interceptions. I think he's thrown 11 to 7, but that's not going to win you games in indoor football at all. A 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio will not win you games. You need 3-to-1, 4-to-1, and Coach Trey knows this better than anyone. But I feel it's an inherent culture problem. They need to figure it out. This game is a huge teller for them. If they go 0-4, they're in trouble. And I look at their schedule, and I think there's a possibility they lose every single game, honestly. Like, they have the toughest schedule in the NFL by far, if you look at that team's schedule. So I'm interested to see what they do at running back, if they go with Carsdale or Stockton. I don't know if he's arrived there or not. Lacriviante Gonzalez, they have to get him more involved. Like, they have the receivers. It's just a defense. It's awful. Their defense is so bad, and that's the problem when Nate was there too. Imagine if they had not even like an elite defense, not even a great defense, but a respectable defense when Nate Davis was there. They could have been winning championships, in my opinion, or at least reaching championships. So that's been the issue with Duke City. Greg Dent is still that dominant receiver he's been. There's just so many questions for this team. I got Naz winning this game. I think Naz might legitimately beat them by 3 scores. Joshua Jones. I agree. They have been in every game they play, but it's a lot worse down there than it looks, in my opinion. But I think Naz beats them by 2 scores, and I think Joshua Jones is starting to find his rhythm. 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. So he's quite a talent as well.
Joshua Jones has made me a believer. I have to say, kudos to Les Moss and the staff down there with Naz. They've done a really good job of finding new quarterbacks every season. They really took that developmental league aspect of it and kind of really have held on to that and been able to find some decent players to hopefully send to the next level. Garrett Kettle was there last year. He hasn't elevated quite yet, but we got Caleb Barker and now Joshua Jones. So just solid players across the board, and they've done a lot of good things with them. So, I'm going to pick Naz in this game as well. Unfortunately, I don't see Duke City getting it together this week. They do have a really tough schedule, as Krish mentioned. I do think they need to make a quarterback change. They went and signed Jeremy Hickbottom. He was with Tucson for a minute before they chose Myleik Mitchell as the starter, and I really think he'd probably be a better option at this point. Kilgo, I know he's a local guy. I know you want to play on that, but at this point, it's time to make a change. I really think that there's some talented players out there. I know Gina and the staff out there knows there's talented players out there, so it's only a matter of time before they ultimately decide to bring in a new face there. Let's go to Coach Trey next. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, the first thing I'm gonna say is it's hard to hear y'all say what y'all say about Jab and Kilgo. When if Javin need to be replaced, then replace everybody on the defense. And replace everybody on the defense the year before that, and replace everybody on the defense the year before that when Nate Davis was there too. So last week, the other guy that was on here said that Duke City was in a rebuilding phase, but let's not forget, Duke City ain't been nothing but 500 since 2021. Defense has always struggled under Freddie Griggs. And like Chris mentioned, right now they have blurred lines between coaching titles and responsibilities and things like that with bringing back Coach Bamardi. We all know Coach Griggs is also the GM, so you can just imagine the chaos and the power trip and the power struggles that's going on inside that organization. So if we really look at it and we look at Jack and Kilgore, we think about it. Sewer water trickles down. So if it's getting dirty at the top, everything underneath, everything's going to get dirty. Javin is a winner. And I'm knowing Javin is struggling, dealing with what's going on out there in Duke City. Especially coming back after retiring, then deciding to go help Duke City. But he went in knowing this, But you can bring in another quarterback if you want to, but it's not gonna change the fact that the defense suck. It ain't gonna change the fact that the linebacker don't make plays. It's not gonna change the fact that the defensive line don't make plays. I gotta go with Nas. The Nas quarterback, he gonna do his thing, with the run and the pass. Cause Duke City, that's just they susceptible to anything, especially if you're running the ball. So they giving the ball to your guy McCorker. They giving your ball to the running back. They got kind of Les Mouse has kind of more of a balanced situation going on. But Duke City, no, they still gonna struggle. They might play a close game. They could, but they just don't have the defense to get over the hump. They just don't have the defense, and they don't have the culture. You mentioned Gina. Gina got to grab hold of her organization and how she doing things, and understand that chaos. This chaos is not gonna create. You got to have some order in there. You got to point out who has these responsibilities, who has those responsibilities. Because I talked to a player and I asked him, so what you think about because I didn't know what he said. I said, so what's Coach Bamardi's role? He said he like a head coach. So I said, so what's Coach Griggs? Well, he kind of like the head coach too. Well, that don't sound like a good situation, do it? So Duke City, looking like it'll be like a downhill slope if they don't get it together real quick. So I'm going with Nas.
And I'm not, and coach, I completely agree with you. And I kind of wanted to hold on this point too. The term rebuild in indoor football, from other people saying rebuild, it's absolutely laughable to me. Rebuild, you have a new team every year anyway. Like, there's no rebuild. You either are good or you suck. There's no there's no rebuild. So that's just funny to me. Rebuild is an excuse that owners use who don't want to go out. And I'm not saying Gina is one of those owners. Gina should recruit talent. That's not her. But like other owners, right? They just use that as an excuse, right? Like we don't really care about the on the field product, right? Like Green Bay, like I said this before, Kathy and them, they don't care about the on the field product. They could be 3-15. It doesn't care. They're still gonna sell out, right? How does that matter to them? So, but there's organizations that care and have a standard to uphold, right? So Duke City needs to decide right now: are we that standard? Because we like if they have the season I think they're gonna have right now, it's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of conversations that have to be had in the offseason about the future, like not even just like the future of the coaches, the future of the organization and the IFL. Because if you look at their attendance, that's another thing too. So
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. As much as I hate to say that, Duke City's my team for anybody who's watching. So I mean, I want that. I want to see them succeed. I want to see them find, victory in a bunch of games this year because I think that they've got a lot of talent on the roster. It's just things have not come together. I do think that looking back, hiring a second head coach was probably a mistake. I think that the organization would probably tell you that if they could be 100% honest about the situation. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't really know. I'm not there, but I just have a feeling that that's creating a lot more issues than it is helping. Honestly, I think they've taken a step backward this season, but I could sit here and talk about Duke City all day. Let's go ahead and get Cody's thoughts, and then let's get final thoughts, and we'll go ahead and wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah, I'll try and keep this brief. I'm not going to touch on organizational issues. I really like to just talk about the games. That's their cross to bear. But yeah, Kilgo, not good. Very, very boomer bust. I take it back. He's good for what he's serviceable for. I don't like saying guys suck or whatever. That's not my intention. But we know he can be better. Just the situation he's in is not provided that. Jeff Carr, you got to get the running game going. That as simple as that. For Duke City to win, you have to be more than one dimensional. You shut down the passing game, you shut down Duke City. Simple as that. Greg Dent, it's nice to see him on the offensive side of the ball. He was a defensive back for quite a few games last year. Injuries, whatever, kind of forced him into that role. I don't know. Is Jason Serta back? He didn't play in the game against Tucson. Like Coach said, that the defense has a lot of improvement to do. I'll put it nicely. He can put it more bluntly than I will, but the defense has a lot to improve. When I was going through the 25-man rosters that I try and update regularly, I watched this game twice. Did Duke City have a full 21-man roster on the sidelines? I only counted 19. They had Isaiah Bean and Devonair Concliffe as kind of your backups, and then you had your starters. I don't know if they had a full 21 guys. So that could prove to be kind of detrimental if you're not getting the guys in there. It clearly speaks to a culture issue. On the other hand, Northern Arizona, this is kind of like an Arizona thing. It's kind of a get right game. Very balanced offense, like Coach said. RZ McCorker, can we get another kick return? You lighted it up with 2 in the first game. Haven't done much since. I want to see him return another kick. Elder running the ball. I mean, some nice jet sweeps and some handoffs in the backfield for him. Josh Jones is going to do his thing. Defensively, I think that's where it is. Northern Arizona is going to probably put the clamps down. Tremont Lofton is getting after it. He's the only guy that has 3 forced fumbles on the season. No one else has more than 1. Travian Banks, Kevin Hyde, that secondary is going to put the clamps down on the passing game here. I look for Northern Arizona to win, but I look for Duke City to cover.
All right, interesting. I believe they were 10-point underdogs, so I could see them covering for sure. Let's go around the table, do final thoughts. Let's go ahead and start with Cody. Cody, you run inside. It's in the alley, correct?
Yeah, in the alley on YouTube. It's the only thing I do. No Twitter. I mean, I post on Facebook on my personal page about it, but I don't have an in the alley personal Facebook. Something I like to do in my free time.
Definitely. Well, you do great at it. If you're tuning in, we've got about 31 viewers right now. Make sure you go over, subscribe to his channel on YouTube. Like he said, that's the only place you can find it. So make sure you go over there in the alley, subscribe today. And then we got Coach Trey Sports. Coach, why don't you give us your final thoughts? I know you've got kind of content coming out as well.
My final thoughts, man, is that transactions need to be made. When I played, that was a big time understanding. Every day playing under Coach Rodney Blackshear, you came in, he made it clear to remind you that transactions will be made. So I think that the owners and the GMs need to make some transactions. Even the head coaches. Some teams need new defense. Some teams need new offense. Some teams need complete coaching overhauls. But the nature of this game is you can not have success and still end up in positions that baffles me. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like when you talk about Duke City, and everybody forget that Duke City's rise to prominence came off the sabotaging of the Texas Revolution under Coach Victor Mann, who was dominating Duke City, Salina, whoever you name, So that's kind of a deal that goes to show that you can get too successful in some of this and end up, being kind of ostracized. And you can be a coach who just go along. And some of these problems that these teams have is just based on how the coaches are dealing with the players, the transparency, things of that nature. And I can't think of this guy's name that's next to me right now. Is it Justin? No. He mentioned not mentioning the organizational problems, right? But in this level of football, organizational problems play big parts in wins and losses. Depending on the type of coach and the coaches that you have, most coaches, they not gonna keep it transparent and speak honestly about the situations. That's why in Duke City, I know them players are confused. You probably got two different things being told to them from two different angles and two different perspectives. And so now you got a whole lot of confusion because you don't know who gonna be the next one up. You don't know who gonna be the one moving forward. So you're trying to do what this one say, you're trying to do what that one say, because we know with this situation, somebody gotta go at some point. Whether it be at the end of the season or not, somebody gotta go. So that's where I'm at, man. You can follow me, catch me at Coach Trey Sports.
Definitely. Make sure to go follow Coach Trey Sports right now. Facebook, Twitter, I believe Instagram as well. Okay, perfect. Let's go to Big Boy Sports. Big Boy, what are your final thoughts? And then also make sure you subscribe to Big Boy Sports on YouTube as well. And then also, what's some content you got coming up for us?
Well, first things first, obviously, go ahead and subscribe to Big Boy Sports. We are growing, which is crazy. Like, oh my gosh, like we're growing at a crazy rate, which is not what I expected this year. But hey, so far I'm loving it. I don't know. I might not have time now, but should be whenever I get situated, because I'm doing something today. So, I'm doing something today with my family. So whenever I get situated, NHL playoffs talk, so talking the NHL. Of course, I'm a big lacrosse guy, so I do talk lax. We'll be talking lax in the next couple of days or so, because there's a lot of stuff going on lax. And of course, this week in indoor football, not this week in arena ball. I know I like the joke, but this week in indoor football will be sometime Sunday evening when I get back from East Texas, because that's where I'm going with my family. So when I get back, we'll be talking everything. And again, I'm probably one of the few people that covers everybody, the entire sport. So West Michigan's thing, whatever they're doing, because I don't know how many teams are in the GLAF, the AL2. Of course, we were talking about it today. I don't know what in the world's going on with the Carolina Predators. They flaked on a game with Jersey, so they basically said, we're not going down to Jersey. So I don't know. That was another thing I wanted to bring up, so that they didn't go down to Jersey. So that game got canceled and everything last week. That's about it, really. Just we're still rocking and rolling with this week in indoor football and everything like that. The next couple weeks and everything, and then of course, next Sunday, everything. Yeah, the AFL 3 is going to debut next weekend. I don't know how that's going to go, to be completely honest with you. I'm still 50-50 on AFL 3, but I'm just waiting to see what in the world happens with that. Just subscribe to me on YouTube. Of course, I have my Twitter page, but ML Nation 0001. But that's like I do it for both personal and professional. LinkedIn, I've been doing stuff on LinkedIn. I've been putting my interviews on LinkedIn under my real name and everything like that. And then my Facebook is also under my real name, but I don't really post on Facebook like that, about indoor football stuff. So it's basically it for me.
All righty. Krish, what do you got coming up in the pipeline?
Yeah, I kind of want to go off what Coach Trey said. These teams need to be more willing to ask for help. When I talk to coaches, I got a list of players, quality players. I'm not talking like your local, dad, semi-pro guys. Like, no, I got dogs. You know what I mean? And I reached out to Duke City. I've offered them help. Like, I'm willing to help Duke City. Bring me in for free. In the Western Conference, we don't play y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can help you. But, because I'm young and that whole political thing. But it's still like these teams need help. They need help. They need to recruit. They need to recruit talented players. For me, I see it every week, and it's a level of professionalism with communication, right? I got players communicating with coaches. Coaches go ghost on them. Then they come back like 2 hours later. They won't reply. I have players doing the same thing. Players telling me, oh, I can be here at this time, and then, oh, no, I don't want to leave the state. Like, it's certain things like that where it's, we need as a sport and as players and as coaches, we need to be held to a certain standard, right? Because otherwise, you see all these people in the comments and other places trashing on the image. The IFL does a great job with that, but I need other leagues to kind of step up and hold that standard. You should not be allowed to bring 19 guys, 18 guys to a game. That's never been allowed. I don't care if it's IFL, NAL, AL, whatever. Well, AL, okay, but like AIF, like I don't care. You should not be allowed to bring. That's dangerous. Bring 18 guys with an 8-on-8. You know how dangerous that is. No. I see it all the time. I see IFL teams, only bringing. We played a team 2 weeks ago, and they only brought 3 DBs with them. They brought 3 defensive backs on the entire trip with them. They brought 3 receivers. I'm like sitting there going, what? One of the DBs got hurt. So the receiver had to play both ways. And they had to put a running back in at receiver for the rest of the game. I'm like, it's not how it should be. So roster management is something that I want these teams to focus on, and I want them to take more seriously. Otherwise, we're going to have teams that are going to go 0-15, 2-10. Like, it's going to be bad. So, just step up across the board. But IFL, NAL, I feel like the product overall has been good. I love watching the games. I have a say in it. I say a lot. Yeah, but I feel like, how I mentioned earlier about local, like, dad semi-pro players too, you can, yeah, you know what I mean. But, like, for me, my biggest thing is just, uniform across the industry. I think the more we can get that, the better it'll be. But I have a say in it because I watch every game. So, I still enjoy it. I think we've got a lot of great games coming up. I'm excited for the AFL next week. I think that's huge for the industry that they're on NFL Network. Let the other stuff play itself out. But, Yeah, it's gonna be a great night of indoor football for sure.
Definitely. Ton of games
I
coming up
wanted
tonight.
to touch on something that Chris said about the 18 and 19 players. He was a little inaccurate. This has been going on since the game's been going. You end up dressing what you have to dress. In most cases. Depending on the budget that you have that week, you might be having to pay somebody more. You know how this go. But when it come down to the 3 DBs and the 3 receivers, depending, we talking about only 2, maybe 3 players. So we most likely you're gonna have 3 receivers. You might have 3 O linemen. You might have 3 DBs because you might suit 4 O linemen. You might suit 4 receivers. So at the end of the day, you're gonna end up short somewhere. But that's why this game is built. You have to find the players who can adapt and who can play multiple positions. That's always been where the goal was you have to find those players. And for Chris to say that it was dangerous, then the whole Iron Man concept is dangerous if that's the case, because in those games, the players are playing the whole game. So you can't say it's dangerous. You can't say that it's this or that, because at the end of the day, it's a strategic factor. And most of the time it can fail on some coaches because they're doing it for the wrong reason and without purpose. You know what I mean? So you going into games sometimes with 19, 18. Like, for instance, I can give the example when I was in San Antonio, it was no way we should have been going into games with 18 and 19 players. But we was doing it every week. And I didn't understand it because we wasn't that good. We were suffering at DB. We needed DB. We needed this. We needed that. But we was going into games with 5 and 6 receivers, 2 DBs, and it was crazy. So you have to build your roster right to be able to do those things. And right now, most of these teams don't build their rosters right because they looking for one-trick ponies. This game is a game where if you can find the jack of all trades, you got a winner. You know, if you got a one-trick pony, he's just a one-trick pony. But if you got somebody who can do, like you mentioned, the Rudy Johnson guy, you see how that worked? That's value. But if you didn't have that Rudy Johnson, then you kind of in a bad spot. So I just wanted to touch on that part.
No, perfect example. I mean, honestly, I think indoor football is one of the leagues where, specifically the Indoor Football League, is one of those leagues where Ironman may not be required, but the more you can do, the more valuable you are to these teams. And look at Torrance Gibson, with Tucson, who plays wide receiver, plays quarterback. We talked about Rudy Johnson. There's players across the league. Greg Dent, we talked about him as well. I mean, it's a huge advantage in roster building to have guys that can go both ways or do multiple things, and we see it every week. But thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate all 40 viewers that we've had this live. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Catch us next week. We've got a great guest list for next week as well. Hopefully everybody shows up. And on that note, we will catch you guys in the next episode.
I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer.